Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course stream for fun. Today we're doing another State of Gaming. These are where I'm basically doing deep dives into the gaming industry, whether we're looking at a company or kind of the overall health of the gaming industry or particular game development or something like that. And today we're going to be going over kind of how games have just felt generic, and I believe the publishers don't know who their audience is. Which, yeah, we could probably all agree with that, but what is it exactly that's kind of going on? And I have a lot of examples too, because there's been a lot of IPs and a lot of studios that have normally turned out some really good products, some really good games, made entire series or trilogies of games, or even still technically go on today, like Call of Duty, for example. But something has drastically changed. Something is very different, and it's not just one particular issue, it's a multitude of them. So thanks for tuning in, folks. You can always find me at Gaming Garbage 22 over at YouTube, and also Discord, Twitter X, and then also over at Twitch. And you can sub there to see everything first. But let's go ahead and get into this. So 2024, it was a pretty bipolar year. A lot of successes, and also a lot of flops, too. While there were a lot of factors of why these games, of why games honestly make money or not, the reasons we've seen lately is kind of understanding your audience. When these publishers don't know who their audience is, or they're trying to make a game for everybody, that's kind of generally when they seem to fail. Because again, a game isn't necessarily made for everybody, and if we take a look at successes like Pal World or Helldivers or Black Myth Wukong, some of those have been pretty successful, or even like the DLC Shadow of the Erdtree or Silent Hill 2 or Space Marine 2. Those have been pretty successful games, but again, they're all different play styles, different focuses, but they understand who their audience is, and they understand what the expectations are. Instead, there's other AAA studios right now that have been producing games over the last 5 years where it's like they don't seem to know their audience anymore. They've seen the numbers grow, and they've seen, look, we need to make a game that's broader, more encompassing, be able to catch as many as we can, like fish in a net. But ultimately, they just become a basic, generic game. Even broken at launch, servers don't work, the messaging is all wrong, or they're trying to kind of maybe expand their audience by changing a few things to make it more engaging for other players that they've never had before in their series, while kind of disowning their previous audience that they've had and built up over the last decade. So it's been kind of a mess. So sometimes the gameplay, the type of game, the graphical quality, and the big AAA budgets, hundreds of millions of dollars, it's still not enough to make the game be a success. And again, we've gotten to see this. When it all clicks together as a passion project and an experience for the player, that's when it becomes fun. That's when it makes money. There's also, of course, some other things like being efficient, not wasting their money. And we've seen also some of these kind of like multimedia IPs that they've been trying to make with movies and games and mobile and toys and whatever. And that hasn't always worked out super well either. But hey, let's take a look at some examples of these that didn't go well. So we're starting in 2022. We had Rainbow Six Extraction. Oh man, that was so bad. That was a horrible one. Dying Light 2, again, was a game that at launch felt really generic, pretty basic. Some of the missions just felt very underwhelming, like helping someone find their shoes. And even the end of the game just cut to black. There was really no resolution for the player or to kind of, tie it in a bow for the experience. It just ended, which was horrible. Cyberpunk 2077, while yes, it has been fixed, it took almost 2 years to actually fix the game. And the studio put down about $126 million of their money just to fix the game to make it ready. Because again, they still had DLCs, and the fixes took so long that some of the DLCs that they had planned, they never actually did. So that sucks. Gran Turismo 7 started out pretty well. People were enjoying it. And within, I think it was the third week or fourth week of launch, after all the reviews had been out, after everyone had already bought in the game, Sony decided, hey, let's actually change how people can earn money in the game, what the costs are for cars, and let's paywall some of the fanciest cars so that, again, we can make more money. Which is disgusting. It's like you totally changed the game. How is that okay? The Saints Row reboot. We got to play that one. God, that was awful. The graphics were bad. The genericness of just the characters and the city and the AI were dumb as crap. Like, they weren't really much of a challenge at all. It was pretty hilarious, actually. And then the characters were hard to engage with, okay? As a millennial, I didn't really want to hear about millennial problems. My whole point of playing video games is to kind of escape reality, be able to have a disconnect, and have a fun experience. But instead, the millennials, as the characters that I couldn't connect with, were constantly bringing up the issues of being a millennial, and it just totally broke the experience for me. Again, I just couldn't believe that that was now Saints Row. And like Saints Row, I don't think will ever come back. I don't think they'll ever make another one. Callisto Protocol. Well, we found out that Krafton basically shoved off several months of development time and pushed the game out way too early so that they could look good for becoming a publicly traded company. And they wanted to speed that up so they could get more money, get bigger numbers, have a bigger, start to their publicly trading career. And unfortunately, Callisto Protocol was a mess. Even though I gave it a 7, I still don't think it deserves necessarily to be that high, because while it is a fairly good experience, it is interesting, at least for those that like horror or like Dead Space, to at least play it once. The combat was janky. There were some things that didn't quite work right. There was kind of a genericness too. Visually, things looked pretty good after some patches, but even the game was actually pretty buggy at launch. The DLCs we had after, again, were just kind of meh and didn't really go anywhere. Tiny Tina's Wonderland. Man, another one. Borderlands. We are talking Borderlands. Made multiple games, sold multiple collections and trilogies and whatever, which, if you want the best deal, Pandora's Box is the best one. You literally get pretty much everything at this point, plus all of the DLCs. I don't think you get Tales from the Borderlands, at least the latest one. Maybe you do. I'd have to check again. But that is honestly probably the coolest package that you can get for Borderlands. But again, Wonderland, man, it just wasn't received overly well. Instead of having this kind of open area or open world, it seemed a lot more compartmentalized. And instead of actually kind of creating some interesting characters, instead we got to hear the characters kind of in the ether up in the clouds talking about what we were doing or what we should be doing, as if we were playing a board game of D&D, which, again, this was a cool idea to try, but boy, it was not executed well, and it was quite annoying, and there was no way to actually turn that off. There's the issue, too, with the DLC. It didn't feel like DLC. Going from whole stories, new characters, and different experiences, we now went to just, well, you do a 10-minute run to kill a boss over and over and over again, to basically collect enough stuff to ultimately get something else that really wasn't worth doing either. And that was the DLC. And it's like, what the heck is this? So again, the next Borderlands game, like Borderlands 4, I think it's partly why people aren't as excited, because Wonderland left a bad taste in a lot of our mouths. It just wasn't executed well. And again, we're finding out even with Borderlands 4 today, from one of the directors themselves, that it's not a, quote, open world experience. Great. Can't wait. Thank you guys for not voting for Borderlands 4 in my poll on my channel. I get to play something else and enjoy that probably a lot more. Far Cry Primal. Again, we went from a world of guns and different tools and weapons to just, well, we're 10,000 BC and got a stick and a bow and yeehaw. There's not a lot of people that actually bought it. I remember the price actually going down pretty quickly. Another one was Rumbleverse. Most of us probably don't even remember that one. Babylon's Fall closed its servers in less than a year. Gotham Knights. Oh man, playing that game was a mess. It got jittery and stuttering all over the place, inconsistent frame rate, the kind of just the health, everyone having a health bar basically and just tanking you to death. And just, again, the combat wasn't very fun or engaging, especially with guns. It's like, seriously, you're not going to be able to let me, take out anybody. I have to stun them to death. That was pretty bad. So that was just 2022. All of those games. 2023. Forspoken. It's coming out this month on Xbox if you're interested. Blood Bowl 3. The microtransactions were just horrible. Redfall. It was a buggy, crappy mess. There is an offline mode, so you can actually try it if you want. Total War Pharaoh. Less money, less content. The DLCs as well were delayed and a mess. And again, it just felt like you were getting a heck of a lot less for actually paying the same amount, or in some cases more. And yeah, people were just not excited about this. So far, the developers have actually done a 180 on this and understand why the player base is upset. But again, the damage is already partly done. So we'll see what happens from here. Lords of the Fallen. It was the first game from Hexworks, and man, was it a mess. It was not ready to launch, especially as we got toward the back end of the game. And sometimes that was pretty frustrating. Some pretty cool changes and innovations to like a Souls-like type of game. But again, man, those bosses were so buggy and such a mess at the end, it just wasn't good. And then, too, the bosses, like, none of them were overly difficult. And the movesets were pretty generic, pretty easy to figure out within 30 seconds. And also not overly quick. The challenging part of the game was to not glitch off the side of a flippin' building or whatever and not fall to your death. Or some of the basic enemies were actually more challenging than the bosses, which is horrible. And, of course, my favorite joke, still to this day, is frame rate of 10. During one of the cutscenes, we had some blood squiggling down on the ground. That was like literally a frame rate of 10. Like, it was not rendered right. It shouldn't have been released. It's better now. Okay, they've put out some patches. It's actually out on Game Pass, I think, if you want to try it. But yeah, again, it was not a good release. Lego 2K Drive. It was microtransaction to death. Lord of the Rings Gollum. Oh my word. Talk about going back a couple of generations. Buggy, messy, just, again, putting a paywall behind actual, like, voice acting for some of the lines to have a better audio or narrative experience, which, again, why paywall it at all? If it's actually the real actors doing the lines, just put that in the game. Why paywall it? That's ridiculous. Exoprimal. It's fun after 20 hours. No thanks. Payday 3. Well, again, the copy that people got to play before launch was actually not the launch that we got, unfortunately. And it really damaged the game and damaged the studio too. And they've honestly been losing a lot of money. And they have, again, fixed a lot of things, patched a lot of things. But again, I just think it's too late, especially in February. I mean, we're going to get Monster Hunter Wilds. We're going to get some other games. We also, this month, we have Dynasty Warrior Origins. We also have Sniper Elite Resistance. There are some bigger, and we got Avowed 2 coming in February. There's some bigger titles coming. And man, if you miss the train, it's like, well, you're just going to get passed over by everybody else. City Skylines 2. Where's the DLC? I mean, they just botched it so bad. Overwatch 2 was another one. It was not what we wanted. Things were way more expensive. And the DLC was having trouble coming out, or it was actually less DLC. There was the whole thing with certain events for getting a weapon that was way overpowered. There was Darktide. Again, it was another mess of a game that launched. And they got console version first, but again, that was such a mess. They had to take almost a whole year to fix the console version before we ever actually got a console version. So PC was such a mess. They had to delay console. Luckily, it did come out, but again, it's like you've missed the train already. That opportunity is gone. Modern Warfare 3. Man, that's got to be one of the worst Call of Duties I've ever played in my life. Zombies, not a good change. The campaign, not a good change. The multiplayer was frustrating as crap. I don't know if it's worse than right now what we have with Black Ops 6, but yeah, Modern Warfare 3 was a really bad one. And the idea was, oh, well, we can take a DLC, turn it into a bigger game, and I don't know, charge $70 for it. That's a great idea. Good job. Atlas Fallen. This is just another game that just flew under the weather. Nothing special or amazing about it. There was some more bugs and just meh. It's also on Game Pass if you want to try it out. Immortals of Avium. Another one. Just meh. Starfield. While some people did really enjoy Starfield, it also didn't quite hit for a lot of players, including myself. I still gave it a 7 out of 10 because it is a pretty good game. It is the smoothest running game that Bethesda's ever made. And, which was good, but then Shattered Space wasn't necessarily good. It was, $30, $35 for like a little teeny bit of an experience that, again, was buggy, generic, didn't seem to go right. Whole monologues of characters where you got to sit there for minutes on end, just listening to them talk without having any ability to interact whatsoever. Or what's even worse, conversations between two NPCs, and you just get to sit there and just listen to it all. And that was just really all a mess. That was 2023, just for some examples. 2024, Prince of Persia Lost Crown. That is not the Prince of Persia we wanted. While it is a fine game and it works great, functions wonderfully, it wasn't what we wanted. Again, it's like you gave us a game we didn't ask for. Foam Stars. Just, retrending what we've already been playing, and why start another one? Skull and Bones. You already had Black Flag. You already had Rogue. Okay, the whole blueprint was there. And instead, you created a new, you gave a support studio their first big game. And I understand, but man, it's a mobile game. This is a AAA mobile game where you can race ships. You can't get off your own to actually explore or engage in combat. Harvesting is like a mini mobile game, which is a joke. And then, too, the game was also just a mess. I played a couple of the betas, and was just, it was just not good, not ready. So many directors also left, and the game took like 13 years to develop. Way too long. Mode Runner Expeditions. Again, they changed some stuff. Haven't played it myself, but it's not selling well because it's already on Game Pass. That didn't take very long. Neither did the discounts. Star Wars Battlefront Collection. Oh, my word. While I was frustrated myself, I was more worried with what actually would happen, where the community just gave up after 4 days. It's just a dead collection. Unfortunately, that was a dunk in the bag for them if they could get it right. But nope, the servers were a mess. The game wasn't ready. They were taking some of the art from somebody else and claiming it as their own, which was not appropriate. That's illegal, by the way. And then, the community basically found out how horrible it was and just tapped out on day number 4. I was just slowly watching the counts on Steam just dwindle down to basically nothing. And on Xbox, it was the same way. There were just less and less and less servers. There was less places to play. There were less people actually playing, which was crazy. You started seeing more private servers get put up with bots involved because, again, there wasn't enough players to actually fill a game, which is crazy. And, they totally mucked that one up, which is really depressing. It would have been a cool opportunity. But, the community, too, just gave up on it. Again, they've fixed it. They have fixed those issues. But, man, the fatigue by now is just really setting in. Because, players just want their game to work on day one, especially if they're going to play early access. Star Wars Outlaws. Same problem. Why not have Han Solo, you mother hubbards? You got the IP right there. You got the approval. Why not just actually have Han Solo? Instead, we got to have a omni-racial character. And that doesn't really look like the actress, unfortunately. And again, I could crash the game just by looking through my scope. And then there were other things, too, not being able to carry certain weapons that you found. And again, there was kind of fairly generic gameplay. The AI were really dumb, by the way, incredibly dumb. I guess that's been improved, but the aesthetic was there. It really did feel like Star Wars. That was a really cool aspect of the game. Thank you guys for voting, by the way. You guys can vote right now at Gaming Garbage 22 for this year's game that I'm going to review. But man, what a disappointment Outlaws was. It's just like, man, all of the components were there, but it just didn't fit well. Unfortunately, that was frustrating. South Park Snow Day, horrible. Like last gen graphics, buggy mechanics, very basic gameplay, just not great. Alone in the Dark. Yep, another one. Sandland. We actually did a demo on this, but again, it was just kind of meh. And yeah, again, numbers fell off pretty quick. The discounts came on pretty fast as well, and you know, that's kind of a bummer too, because the creator of the Magna, he died. And so that wasn't a great way to actually, it's kind of like a send-off to something that he created. So that was a bummer. X-Defiant. Again, it's dead within less than a year. Multiverse. Well, they canned it. Took a year to make it better. Brought it back. It was worse. And so, anyway, it's just another mess. Dragon Age Veilguard. We're totally okay with any type of social class being within a video game. But if it's an RPG, we want to be able to have choice that affects the characters and affects the story without any roadblocks, without any barriers. Okay? Let us actually play the game like we know BioWare to be. They've made some wonderful games where you can basically do whatever you want, deal with some of the consequences of those choices, but you can't do that in Veilguard. Great. What the heck are you guys doing? Destiny 2 Final Shape. So we had, I forget. We had the Witch Queen. Wonderful addition to Destiny 2. Lightfall. What the crap is that? And then we had Final Shape, which actually sold less copies than Lightfall did. And then they announced Marathon on top of it. It's like, wait a minute, how are you going to continue to support Destiny 2 while you're making Marathon? You can't. So there goes Destiny 2. It's over. Like, it's just another dying game, which is great. And I don't think people are going to like Marathon when it comes out. Good luck, Sony. Shattered Space. This came out in 2024, but we already talked about that one. Flintlock. Siege Until Dawn. Siege Until Dawn. Again, just another generic, basic kind of game. It had some possibility there. Some of the worlds were cool. Some of the areas were pretty neat. I actually really enjoyed the map. I thought that was pretty intuitive for the game. And there was some kind of interesting mechanics in the game. A fun way to travel around as well. Again, there were like some cool aspects to this game, but it just, again, felt really generic and really focused on, I'm not sure exactly. It's also on Game Pass if you want to try it out. Dustborn. Oh, go. If you literally wanted to shove extreme leftism and shove it into a video game. Sounds fun, right? Be the same thing with extreme rightism in a video game. Like, why can't we just have a video game and just let it be a video game? Okay? Why do we need this political messaging? We don't. And we don't accept it. We don't want it. Concord. Flight Simulator 24. This is actually the worst launch of Flight Simulator I think they've ever had. Buggy, messy, doesn't want to run. Recommended settings, or at least recommended hardware for RAM is 64 gigs on PC. 64. Who the heck has that? Of course, like, you're able to, download certain parts or certain areas and fly around, and whatever. They do make it work on console, and I haven't tried it on console yet, but yeah, I've heard PC is, like, really mother-frickin' bad. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. God. I mean, you just listen to these games in 22, and 23, and 24, and it's just like, some of these had really bad quality. Battlefront Collection, Snow Day, Payday 3, Saints Row, Redfall, Lord of the Rings Gollum. Some of the games didn't hit with audiences. Suicide Squad, Concord, Immortals of Avium, Forspoken, Extraction, Callisto Protocol, Rumbleverse. Some of the games just went the wrong direction. Wasn't what we wanted or expected, like Skull and Bones, Expeditions, Alone in the Dark, The Lost Crown, Wonderland. It's just like, again, they had some great ideas. There were some good aspects of some of these games, but it just did not all come together for us. And these companies lost money. The amount of games that we've listed here, we're probably looking at, I don't know, $5 billion has been totally blown and lost. Maybe even more than that. Again, there's a ton of games here. A lot of these, too, are also AAA. One even quadruple A game. If that's even a possibility. I think the only one that might be a quadruple A is like Gran Turismo or GTA 6. Because, it sounds like that game's budget is $1 billion. Which, if that's accurate, that's pretty insane. But again, even Skull and Bones, the numbers that we have from an insider, on the low end is $650 million. $650 million. I can't even imagine that. That's crazy. So what can publishers learn from the list of games that we've read? Well, players want the experience, not a grind, like Destiny 2. Destiny in itself used to be a wonderful grind. We had a blast. We enjoyed it. It was a wonderful time. I spent a lot of hours in there. And then it slowly became this grind for more money, more things broken up and paywalled. And then they even started taking things away. And I was like, nope, I am totally done with that. Players also want to be rewarded instead of being paywalled. Call of Duty is a great example of this. Diablo 4 is a great example of this. Let us be rewarded for playing and buying your game. That makes sense, right? It should. Also, players don't want political messaging. Okay, we don't want a main supporting character or even the protagonist or even the overall arching theme like Dustborn to be political message to death. Let's talk about something we can all get behind. War being horrible. The destruction of worlds. People being mean and destructive just for fun because they can. And people want to rise up and fight back. Underdog stories are great. They're wonderful. Or making fun of it. Like Helldivers 2 and Space Marine 2. I mean, of course, those are some pretty awesome satires. And we have a fun time doing it. And they're bloody and gory. Okay, they are made for men. Made for guys. And we bought it. We had a blast of a time. Players also want there to be choice and for their choices to matter. Unlike Veilguard, doesn't matter really what you choose, how you do it. It's like, it's kind of the same. Or this continues to be this way or continues to happen and it doesn't really make much of a difference. Players want graphical quality. We don't want PSSR to be $700 and for it to have problems. While it fixes some, it creates new ones. Oh, great. Great, that's totally what we want. Yeah, that's worth $700. You know what's insane is that you can actually get a refurbished PlayStation 5 Pro now from GameStop. You can also get used ones too. Pre-owned. If it was a good sale, if it was a good value, people wouldn't be trading them in. That should say a lot. It really should. Also, too, players want their $70 to $110 game to not be buggy, for the servers to work. Okay? It's a lot of money. It's a ton. Why pay full price? Why pre-order if the game's going to suck or possibly going to suck, and then it does, and then it's like, okay, I just got to wait 2 months, 3 months, and the game's going to be cheaper. Or it's going to end up on Game Pass. And that'll even be cheaper then for me. Players also want innovation. in gameplay mechanics and in story and whatever. Okay, Pal World and Helldivers are wonderful examples of this. They're fun. They're enjoyable experiences. They're fresh. They're new. There's plenty of stuff there to do. And you can join your bros. Frick yeah. Let's make a mess. It's a blast of a time. Also, publishers, if you're listening, you shouldn't chase the trend. Concord, Foam Stars, Multiverse, Suicide Squad. Good God, what are you people thinking? You're literally taking things that could have been great and you're just making it for money. Oh, hey, this is popular. Let's make that and sell that. Well, newsflash, games are taking too freaking long to make. And by the time you see what's successful and you start making it, it's going to be too late by the time it actually comes out. Again, Concord was starting to be, made in like 2017, 2018. It comes out in 2024 and is literally shut down in like 11 days. That's insane. There goes a few $100 million. That's expensive, Sony. What are you doing? Also, don't leave room for competition. Okay, Diablo 4 versus Path of the Exile 2. Everybody's going over to Path of the Exile 2. The game's actually growing. And this isn't even a full release. People are paying for a free game to access a portion of it to play. That's how good it is. That's crazy. Marvel Rivals is another example versus Overwatch 2. Marvel Rivals is actually growing in players after a month. That's also insane. That doesn't happen for live service. So yeah, don't leave room for competition. Do the absolute utmost best that you can and put it out there. Also, the player is right. We've seen many times where the publishers fight the player base. Starfield. Oh, you guys don't need a vehicle. Seriously? You're giving this massive area to explore and we got to jog the whole way there? Oh, look, a rock. Another freaking cave I don't need to explore because it's exactly the same as the last one and there's nothing in it to boot. Why do you fight the feedback? Seriously. It's bad for business. That should be pretty clear by now. Also, make sure that you have passion over greed and that there's efficiency over scalability. So, if the passion is there, you get Elden Ring. Wonderful game. 530 whatever hours so far in Elden Ring. It's a blast for me. I love it. And they charged $60 for the whole game. They didn't do 70. The DLC that they made, Shadow of the Erdtree, is bigger than most games. It's huge. And they just charged $40 for it. Wonderful. Also, efficiency over scalability. Space Marine 2 was half the budget cost of Doom Eternal. A game that's made later, after all inflation, etc. And Doom Eternal cost twice as much. That's insane. And again, scalability isn't the end-all be-all. Just because it's bigger, like Suicide Squad, doesn't mean it's more fun to play. You have to make it fun. You have to think through the player's eyes, not through company eyes. Big difference there. Lastly, remove the employees that verbally attack in person or on socials. When you have developers, when you have directors, leads on teams, or you even have heads of a studio attacking, the player base or their competition, that's stupid. What are you doing? They made a better product. They're the ones that are winning. It's competition, baby. Okay, like Nintendo is doing with Pal World. They're taking them to court instead of actually innovating Pokemon. Nintendo, what are you doing? You are sitting on one of the biggest IPs ever that you've been culturing. Well, not really. It's just kind of stagnated for the last couple of decades. But it's like you've got a wonderful IP, and then Pal World is like, crafting, building, survival. Let's go catch some pals. Dude, it's a blast. It is a fun game. There's a reason why Pal World, with early release, sold like 28 million copies. Think of that, 28 million in like a week, or excuse me, in a month. And then too, when you have employees that are attacking your player base, don't be surprised when your player base doesn't buy your game and they quit playing. Because again, there's other competition out there. It is not just you. And if you have somebody that is completely wrecking your product or your service, get rid of them. Seriously, get rid of them. Get them out of there because they will sink your company. And we've already gotten to see that too. The amount of layoffs that we've had just in 2024 have been more than 2022 and 2023 combined. We've also had a lot of possibly good projects too, looking pretty good. Well, the funding was pulled. And that's the end of that. So it's a rough time out there, but it's like, publishers, are you paying attention? Because this is partly a message to you too. Again, the amount of games that I have listed here, there's over 30 of them. And they all had opportunities to be wonderful and great games that would have made you a lot of money. But they didn't. Because again, the focus was in the wrong place. The budget was overbloated. And your teams weren't cohesive. And ultimately, the player wasn't thought of. It was the money. The company. Well, the company isn't going to buy your game. Your players will. If you make something for them to play. If you make something fun and innovative and engaging and an experience. And listen to your devs. They have ideas. But if you have this toxic positivity, well, they might as well not say anything because they might lose their job. And now we got whole studios closing down. Going bankrupt, massive layoffs. Because, again, it's been all about the money. Well, the money's not coming. You guys better figure this out, otherwise some of you big ones are going down. Square Enix, they're starting to figure it out, so is Capcom. And Sega is too. But man, Ubisoft, that's one example. You guys better figure it out, guys. I don't know if you can survive another year. So with that, folks, thanks for tuning in. You can always follow me over at Gaming Garbage 22. Over at YouTube. You can also follow me at Discord and Twitter X. And also over at Twitch. You can go and follow me on Twitch if you want to see everything there first. And I do a whole bunch of stuff. There's gaming news once a week. We do playthroughs. Lion and I are going through Halo 1 right now. And then I'm also finishing up Tomb Raider 3. And then, there's also deep dives like this. Plus whatever kind of interesting news kind of shows up. But yeah, there's a lot. And so go ahead and poke around on the playlist on YouTube and see what's out there. So with that, folks, hopefully you guys are doing well. Again, remember your goals. Make some. Stay focused. And progress forward this year. It's going to be hard. But that's okay. It's worth it. And so are you. And with that, folks, I'll see you guys on the next one.